Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is June the 3rd, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. We had a good Tuesday, if you will. Work was solid. I will say, I didn't mention this yesterday, but for this whole week, I have to take like this long detour to work and technically take this longer detour back to the gym. Just because they're working on one of the main roads I go on, so that's been a little bit of an annoying hurdle to remember. But outside of that, been good. Solid getting to work. Work was slow, and we'll take that. We'll take those. Nothing to really complain about. I'd say if you're having a day where you're bored at work, it's kind of a good thing, right? You know what I mean? And I also will say a nice, cool thing that happened throughout the day, not just at work, but at the gym, throughout my day. I've had good conversations. I come on the pod, and a lot of times, what is like one of the big culprits of my joy? My a joy thief, if you will. It is bad conversations with people over like the stupidest shit, whether it's just like some online blah blah, or it's like some shitty like internal friend thing that I'm having with a person. I hate that shit. It sucks. It breaks my heart every time because I'm very invested in the people I care about. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'm too invested online. So it can really get the better of me. So I don't come on the podcast enough and talk about good conversations I have with people. So just wanted to say that today was definitely a dub and made me smile in that regard. Also, shout out to my coworker. Shout out to my friend, more importantly, Tyler. He came through. And he was like parking his equipment and about to go on his break. And he had a pizza box. So of course my fat ass is gonna inquire. I'm like, "What's in the box? What's going on, man? What's in the box?" And he proceeds to tell me that he's got a whole little kind of like I would say it was big for a small, right? Which is we love to see that. We love a healthy small. You know what I mean? Where we're giving you good portions, good ratios here. But this like pizza that he got from a place called Roscoe's, and it was a pickle pizza. So we're talking edge to edge, just pickles all over this thing. It looked so good. It was so yummy looking. And he's like, "Yeah, I've been waiting for this. I'm about to have my break. I'm about to eat this shit." And I'm like, "Hell yeah, brother. Enjoy that shit. Smash." And he comes back and he still has the box. And he's like, "Bro, I saved you some pieces." And I'm like, "My G, my G." I was so happy. Mind you, my stomach was not, it's kind of hit and miss, but y'all know me. Y'all know I love food. I don't care what it does to me. I don't care about no aftermath. And, I have to take a free thing from my homie. I have to take a couple of free slices. So, mind you, I have some. This pizza is phenomenal. Love it. I would love to go to Roscoe's and try some more of their pizza for sure. I'll keep you posted if I ever wind up doing that. But yes, highly recommend if you're in the local area, try some Roscoe's and let me know what you think. But yeah, I fucked with that pizza. It made my day. And the rest of work went well. Once again, no problems, no complaints. From there, we went to the gym. Gym was good. There was, a good amount of people, but I was able to get on all the machines that I wanted to get on. So that was nice. That was good. Got out a decent time. I will say I'm running a little bit later, but that's just like me kind of being a little slow. Sometimes I take my time on things of this or that nature, or like I said, I'm having a good conversation. I wind up talking. I wind up keying on my phone. You know what I mean? But overall, just been a really good day. I'd say the only snag, the only like problem has been my stomach. And usually by the time I'm here at the end of the night, I'm hungry. I'm ready to eat. But right now, it is not good. I don't feel the greatest, but I'm gonna be all right. I'm gonna manage. I'm gonna persevere. I'm gonna overcome. So yeah, we love that. But yeah, I mean, now we're here. We're yapping. I got some news on the docket, so let's go ahead and do our startup and let's get into it. Ooh. Okay. Our first story is a bit of an update that I um wound up learning a little bit more about in terms of the Jonathan Joss situation, his death. Really, more importantly, like I mean, to say it better, I mean his killing. Um, from the BBC, King of the Hill, King of the Hill Parks and Rec actor shot dead. U.S. actor Jonathan Joss has been shot dead in what his husband says was a homophobic hate crime, although police have said they have found no evidence of that, which is very frustrating because, I feel like a lot of the media has just kind of run off of what the police have said and not like the actual whole narrative that, there's evidence of and that has been stated by Joss's husband. So it's very frustrating that you kind of on day one you just have kind of pretty much a partial narrative, and you go, okay, well, yeah, it's really unfortunate he died in this situation. It seemed like some kind of altercation or something to that effect. When really, like, no, this was a straight up hate crime. We literally covered a hate crime, the other day. We did the update, and it's like out of the Trump administration, out of everyone involved, boom, this is immediately this. This is a bad thing. We condemn it. We don't condone this. We're gonna try this to the highest extent. But then you have in this situation, we're doing some investigating. We'll get back to you. When there's already like things on the table that are showing you that this was a hate crime. I guess I should smack an allegedly somewhere here or there, but whatever. Let's see. I'm going to read from this highlighted portion. The shooting happened when the couple went back to the site of their old house, which was burned down after over 2 years of threats from people in the area who repeatedly told us they would set it on fire, Gonzalez wrote on Facebook. When we returned to the site to check our mail, we discovered the skull of one of our dogs and its harness placed in clear view. This caused both of us severe emotional distress. We began yelling and crying in response to the pain of what we saw. While we were doing this, a man approached us. He started yelling violent homophobic slurs at us. Then he raised a gun from his lap and fired. Jonathan and I had no weapons. We were not threatening anyone. We were grieving. We were standing side by side. When the man fired, Jonathan pushed me out of the way. He saved my life. Gonzalez added that Josh gave me more love in our time together than most people ever get, and that we were in the process of looking for a trailer after getting married on Valentine's Day. I was with him when he passed. I told him how much he was loved. So, I mean, it's sad, like, to go out like that. And for this to just be kind of treated like, oh, this was just like an altercation between two, neighbors or former neighbors or whatever. When it's like, no, clearly there was an animus involved here that was not just like, oh, I have this running beef with my neighbor. Now we'll see what comes out with CJ. I only really remember his last name off the top of my head. Well, I got his name right here, Sigfrido Alvarez Sija. We'll see how this plays out in court. Not to give slack to the judicial system or anything like that. There is obviously still time to add charges. You want to make sure that you're adding charges that can stick. Yada yada yada. Blah blah blah. But yeah, I definitely felt like I would be remiss to not cover that this wasn't just some altercation. This wasn't just like, oh, he's died, like he's gone now, like he just poofed and disappeared, like this was just some dark problem, like it was just some dark magic. Like, no, someone hated this family, someone hated this couple so much that they went and they fucking did something like this. And I mean, allegedly whatever, but like we will see how this comes out. But once I heard that part of it, I was like, I need to get back on and update, talk about that. All right, but let's move on to the rest of our episode. From CBS News, dozens reportedly killed near Gaza Humanitarian Foundation hub in third consecutive day of violence. Now, I gotta be real, y'all. I mean, this episode's probably gonna feel like a bit of deja vu. We're back in the same places, covering the same kind of thing, but it's not the same. This is another day of violence and brutality, another day of senseless killing. So I need to make that very clear, where sometimes I have to like stop myself and recheck the article and stuff where I'm like, am I reading just like a news from the other day and this is just an update? Like, no, this is a new day. This is a new atrocity. At least 27 Palestinians were fatally shot and 161 others wounded on Tuesday as they tried to reach a food distribution center in Gaza run by a controversial U.S. backed group, according to the Hamas run Gaza Ministry of Health. It was the third day of deadly violence reported near a humanitarian hub run by the U.S. and Israeli backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF, a private organization accused by the United Nations of weaponizing aid. We were shocked by the numbers of injuries, a horrific number, one ambulance driver said as the wounded were rushed to the Nasser hospital in the southern Gaza city of Khan Yunis. All the injuries were directly to the head and chest, many of them young people who went to get aid from the American Foundation. Little information has been made public about GHF operations. CBS News has been told by one source that it has employed at least 300 American contractors, all heavily armed, who have been given as much ammunition as they can carry. Now, this is the same kind of song and dance out of the IDF, where they're saying, "Hey, we fired warning shots at them initially. They were in a non-sanctioned area where they weren't supposed to be in this corridor. This wasn't a safe corridor for them to be. We warned them, and then we just started shooting at them." But I think it's important to note what that doctor was saying. It's like, these weren't like warning shots and then like you shot to like slow people down or wound, whatever. No, you shot to kill. This is immediately like, no, you guys aren't heeding our instructions the way we asked you to. We're going to start mowing you down. And in this situation, just like the other situations, we really only have the IDF's word on this. And like, if you listen to what anyone that is saying out of the the health ministry out of Gaza, they're like, no, well, that's Hamas. So, you can't trust them. If you trust them, you're trusting a terrorist. And we've even said that Hamas was actually doing the shooting. So like, maybe it was them. Like, we're still figuring out ourselves. Like, you have varying shades of this shit through each of these scenarios that we've talked about, over the past like week cycle. But inevitably, it's the same outcome. It's people not getting the food that they've traveled all the way here to get, they fought for, and then they're fucking dying on top of it. So, what is this? Like, this is literally the weaponization of the aid that we were, that the UN has been talking about. That's been, that we've been talking about on this podcast, where it's like, you are holding this over their heads and then you're just using this as a tool to kill them. Even more of them. Not to mention, you are still just dangling over their head while these people are starving to death. So, I feel like it's important to not miss these stories and to try to get to them to the best of my ability, try to cover them to the best of my ability. Like I said, I mean, we could run through the quote, but like I said, it's the same kind of fucking song and dance here. So yeah, I don't feel bad paraphrasing IDF's fucking atrocity statements. I mean, I think that they are on a pause. The GHF is on a pause right now in terms of delivering aid, but this is also part of that whole dangling effect of like, okay, this is already a drop in the bucket as is. And now you're putting a full pause on it. So who is giving the aid? Because you won't allow the UN to do it. So no, like, people are just starving yet again. And then when you open it back up, you're just going to probably wind up fucking killing more people. So this is a lose-lose for the Gazan people, but they have no choice. Like, I was listening a couple days ago, and you literally hear someone getting aid, and they're thanking Israel, they're thanking the Americans because they're just happy to get some fucking food. Like, this is what they need. So they like, it doesn't matter. Like, these are the people that are literally killing and mowing them down, putting them in this fucking situation. You're just happy to get a fucking meal, and God damn it, you hope you get another. For if not just yourself, your family. I mean, you have men, women, and children doing everything that they can to just try to get one of these fucking food boxes for their family. And, for some people dying in the process. They covered a story of, a mom trying to get food for their kids, and she dies in the process of getting this food. And, they're crying over their mother, and they're like, we're never going to forget this. You know what I mean? Not now, not in the afterlife. And can you blame them? Like, put any person in this situation. Like, how do you not have such, like, bitter resentment? How are you not filled with, like, just not just despair, not just sorrow, but yeah, hate, dude. Like, it is crazy. And I'm not trying to advocate or do anything like that, but it's just, once again, it's just this cycle of brutality that is just non-stop, to the point where this whole population of people, they're like, we just have to be braced for this. When I leave the house, I don't know if I'm going to see my fucking family again. You know? Like, it is, it's crazy that this is unfolding day after day after day after day. And it's just allowed. It's just not just allowed. It is enthusiastically supported by at least my fucking country, at least in America. You know what I mean? Like, at least by my administration, at least by politicians, like, and not just the Republican ones, not just the fucking conservatives, but the fucking liberal Democrats. You have Ricky Torres. Hey, I'm trying to find a way to save the Democrats, but I also gotta defend Israel. I have no choice. I have to do it for my constituents, of course, and it's just the right thing to do. I don't know or care about any Palestinians for real, but I got the people who are my constituents who are paying for my shit. I don't know. I'm in the weeds about this, but I mean, these are the things that I think about, and I hear from these fucking people on the news, and it's just they're not doing anything but trying to secure their fucking next fucking donation and their fucking seat for the next fucking election. That's all these motherfuckers seem to care about. And meanwhile, every single fucking day, people are dying. So, yeah, and just the worst, most brutal ways. So. I know I'm dwelling on this a bit long, but sometimes this is just for me to vent it out. You know what I mean? I just gotta get and talk this out to somebody. Y'all know I live in Ohio, and shit, it doesn't matter where you live. I don't know if all my friends really want to hear my fucking 2 cents on this shit, every other day or whatever. You know what I mean? So sometimes I just have to put it out here on this podcast, and I appreciate any and all of my friends and my family who tune in for this. So, I don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next story. Goddamn. Like I said, with the deja vu from The Guardian, Ukraine hits bridge linking Crimea to Russia with underwater explosives. Ukraine has detonated a massive underwater blast targeting the key road and rail bridge connecting the Russian-occupied Crimean Peninsula to Russia, damaging its underwater supports. The operation, for which Kyiv's SBU security service claimed responsibility, is the second high-profile operation by Ukraine in days, striking significant Russian assets after a sophisticated drone raid on Moscow's strategic bomber fleet on Sunday. Now, I quickly grazed through the bombing of the bomber fleet or whatever, the drone strike or whatever on that, mainly because I just didn't have many more details. It turns out it was a pretty, they love using the word audacious this week, but it was pretty bold. It was pretty daring. I also hate that they compared it to the fucking IDF and how they did the pager shit in Lebanon with Hezbollah. I'm like, I mean, I get what we were talking about here, but that was much more grim and very different when you actually get into the goddamn details of what happened there and here. But essentially, with Ukraine, they put a bunch of drones on, I believe, shipping containers and crates and shit like that. I guess containers or whatever. And they had it so that the tops of the containers could open up. I don't know if it's on some, remote control shit or whatever. But they were then waiting for this opportunity because, like Zelensky said, this was a year and a half or something of preparation. And they were able to, get these containers into where they wanted them, into the location. And then they were able to open up the fucking roof of the container, and they were able to come out and do the fucking raid. So essentially just doing an end run around the radar, around any kind of missile defense, and it made it way more effective. So, I mean, cool, I guess they were able to do that. Kudos, and I guess kudos for doing this with this, I forget what it's called, the Kerch Bridge, yeah. But I mean, we've done this here before. This isn't new. I don't know how much this is going to do in terms of any of the negotiations, any of the talks. I don't think it makes any of it better. But I think that for Ukraine, they are trying to show that it's hey, you should still be betting on us. You should still be, backing us. We're still this, quote unquote, last line of defense against Russia, the Russian menace in Europe. So like, as we, go into, NATO summits or whatever the fuck, you should invite us and not Russia. You know what I mean? You should sanction Russia. Da 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 da. I mean, okay, cool, super dope. I just don't know how this moves the needle. Once again, just like the fucking drone raid from days prior. I mean, we'll see though. But I mean, I think this is gonna just be the same kind of march along. Unfortunately, I don't think this is something that's really changing the conversation on the battlefield or at the negotiation table. So yeah, I mean that's more or less my summary on that. That's all I really feel like I want to say about that. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. But gotta keep you posted there. Anyway, now we're gonna talk about just politics. We're talking realpolitik in this motherfucker. At least that's what I think. I like using that phrase, knowing damn well I'm probably just saying it half cocked. I don't know. Y'all know me. Anyway, I just be talking shit. From the Associated Press. Nawrocki's win turns Poland towards nationalism and casts doubt on Tusk's centrist government. Now, I kind of want to just already do a pause here. Y'all know I'm stupid. You got me there. Y'all know that I don't get super immersed into any real, like, any one country's political system or whatever, unless like the news kind of dictates it like for me to, or it's just America. So it's like I live here. I should have at least a decent grasp on it, right? And even then I come up lacking. Whatever. That being said, I feel like I know enough about Donald Tusk, Prime Minister Donald Tusk, to know that this man is not a centrist. This administration that he has formed is not that. Like, they are centrist, but I feel like it's better to just say they're moderate. They're moderate conservative. More importantly, like, conservative is the more important word here and not moderate. Now, I could be very wrong on that, and the motherfuckers at the AP, they probably have bigger brains and they got degrees. So, I mean, hey, maybe you should go with them on that, on this shit. I don't fucking know, but I feel like it's spin. I feel like it's spin to try to make it seem like this Carol Nawrocki guy is just the outright worst. And I would agree, this guy is worse, but like, I'm not rooting for Donald Tusk in any one of these situations. There's no dimension, there's no timeline where I am. But I guess if this guy is worse, then I want him to be a little bit more successful. But like, whatever. I'm booing both of these motherfuckers at the end of the day. So I wanted to get that kind of out there. But I understand why they word it this way and why they kind of want to cast this narrative. I just disagree with calling this guy like a centrist or something when he really is a moderate conservative. Like, center-right is still right, if you ask me. God damn it. Anyway, conservative Karol Nawrocki's victory in Poland's weekend presidential runoff has set the country on a more nationalist course, and cast doubt on the viability of the centrist government of Prime Minister Donald Tusk after the defeat of his liberal ally. Nawrocki, who is supported by U.S. President Donald Trump, won 50.89% of the votes in a very tight race against Warsaw Mayor Rafał. Oh, good night. Nawrocki, sure, we just said it. We just fired that off. Who received 49.11%, according to the final results of Sunday's runoff published Monday morning. By evening, Tusk said he would ask Parliament to hold a vote of confidence in his coalition government, a fragile multi-party alliance that includes left-wingers, centrists, and agrarian conservatives. Tusk's government exists separately from the presidency, but the president holds power to veto laws, and Nawrocki's win will make it extremely difficult for Tusk to press his pro-European agenda. The race revealed deep divisions in the country along the eastern flank of NATO and the European Union. The result leaves Tusk politically wounded, and there are questions about whether his coalition can survive to the end of its term in late 2027. There were already calls on Monday from political opponents for him to step down. So hence why he's just like, hey, let's just run the jewels. Let's just fucking roll the dice and do, see if we can get a vote of confidence. That at least allows us to save some face. Maybe we can continue this coalition and be strong enough to kind of make some moves, make some decisions. But I mean, I guess we'll come back when that is the case. But that being said, like, this Nawrocki guy is obviously no good. I'm not rooting for this dude. Let's see. Nawrocki supporters describe him as the embodiment of traditional patriotic values. Those who oppose secular trends, including LGBTQ plus visibility have embraced him, viewing him as a reflection of the values they grew up with. Most day-to-day power in the Polish political system rests with the prime minister chosen by the parliament. However, the president's role isn't merely ceremonial. The office also holds the power to influence foreign policy. Nawrocki will succeed Andrzej Duda, a conservative whose second and final term ends on August 6th. So once again, booing that guy too. But obviously, you're getting a Trump bump. That means you're not good. It means you're not good, fam. At least over here. It's weird because you have Viktor Orban from Hungary giving him props. You have Donald Trump giving him props. You even have Zelensky giving him props because he knows he has to. He knows he has to try to do his best to keep Poland as much in pocket, any European country, any country really in pocket that he can. Even though a guy like Nawrocki has said, I don't like Zelensky. They should have elections and, this should be like, democratic. I don't care if they're in the middle of a fucking war. Doesn't matter. Also, they both support Ukraine in terms of Tusk and Nawrocki, but I think Nawrocki wants less support for them militarily, like in terms of like giving them more aid and support, and he opposes NATO membership. More on the opposing the NATO membership. I might be getting it wrong in terms of like the support, but I feel like in a lot of situations, these countries go, man, why are we going to be giving Ukraine all of this money, all of this military lethal aid? Do we really need to? And then also they're like, yeah, they shouldn't be a part of NATO. They're not NATO. Even though we got don't we have like fucking Israel in NATO? Don't we have Turkey in NATO? Like, it's so weird. Shit's so strange. Politics. Anyway, let's see here. They talk about him. He was a 42-year-old amateur boxer and historian. Don't care. Blah, 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 blah. That's the article. That's more or less what I wanted to glean from it. Let's see here. We have one more story that I wanted to cover, and you could say for maybe myself and I, the liberal listener, this is good news that I'm closing out with. So I'm kind of I guess in a way happy to bring it, but I don't know. I have some thoughts that I'm sure I will get into. But let's go ahead and take our last break, and we will close it out in Korea, South Korea to be specific. Ooh. Whew. All right, our last story comes from The Guardian. Lee Jae-myung wins election as South Korean president. Liberal candidate Lee Jae-myung has won the vote to become South Korea's new president after a snap election triggered by a brief period of martial law imposed by the now impeached former leader Yoon Suk-yeol. With 100% of the ballots counted, Lee won 49.42% of nearly 35 million votes cast, while his conservative rival Kim Moon-so had taken 41.15%, according to National Election Commission data, which said turnout was the highest for a presidential election since 1997. Speaking outside his home, Lee thanked voters for placing their trust in him. I will do my utmost to fulfill the great responsibility and mission entrusted to me so as to not disappoint the expectations of our people, he told reporters. He said he would not forget the duty of a president to unite the people. Lee, I wish he was 41. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with being in his 60s anyway, but the younger the better, right? Especially if you're talking politics. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being an asshole. Sorry. Lee, a 61-year-old former human rights lawyer who had made 2 failed attempts to become president, rode a wave of public anger that followed Yoon's declaration of martial law in early December. The order, which was overturned in a matter of hours, sparked South Korea's biggest political crisis in decades. The country is also battling an economic downturn income inequality, and doubts over the U.S.'s commitment to security under Donald Trump. Kim, however, struggled to win over moderate swing voters while his People Party feuded over how to view Yoon's legacy. Also, I believe they had a lot of internal strife between who they even wanted to have as the candidate running. I forget the name, even though we definitely said his name a few times. But I believe like the financial guy in charge, he then became the interim while Yoon was in jail, going through his whole impeachment, whatever the fuck. He was a prime candidate, but then this Kim guy kind of had like a bit of seniority or whatever. So they had a bit of infighting, and then this guy came out on top in the end just to wind up losing. But that being said, I mean, it was a pretty small margin. I mean, we're talking under 10% here, which is, I guess, kind of the point that I kind of wanted to close out on. The fact that something like this, that Yoon Suk Yeol did, like that was so major. Like, dude was like doing martial law, like saying, "Hey, I'm gonna have full reign of power here." That whole thing unfolds, but people are still like, like a lot of people obviously came out. We've covered a good amount of that, but there was also people who then came out in support of Yoon Suk Yeol. And we're like, no, this is our guy. Like, they shouldn't be doing him like that. Actually, those liberals are communists. They were trying to do a coup. Like, it is crazy that this shit is still so close. And then you have to ask yourself, do you think that this liberal party taking over, that they're going to actually do something that's going to really keep people happy and make people want to vote for them in the next election? And that's the thing I asked myself, not just obviously with South Korea, but with, we recently, covered Canada, Mark Carney winning and all that. Like, do we think that this is actually going to do enough and keep the favor of the people? Or is this just like a temporary kind of opiate for the masses? They can feel like, hey, we're opposing, Trump, who, yes, America voted for, but we didn't vote for and we don't like. But it's like we've definitely covered so many other situations where people just slide back into this conservative bend and this trend, and they're like, yeah, no, we're okay with that. Even if it doesn't, maybe good for us, we think this will work this time. Or we hate the Democrats or the Liberal Party this much, So I'm happy, at least in this situation, I'm happy, right? I'm counting that as a dub. You should take your victories where you can. I would love to see it in my utopia, in Isaiah's world. It's just more liberal at the very least. I know that's not the end game, and we get a bunch of, Obamas across the world and then everything's better. No, I know that's not the case, but at least I think it's a step forward and not a step back, and I'll take that in my lifetime, but you want to see real change, right? You want to see something that you can actually grab onto, put your teeth in. And I don't know, just the way things still feel, the way things still just carry on day in and day out. Like we have the same kind of conflicts, we have the same kind of bullshit, whether we're talking at like a local level or we're talking international shit, we're talking big wars and big conflicts. It's just like the shit still is moving the same to me. And that makes me sad more than happy, if I'm being fully honest here. But I wanted to close out on a good note. This is a good note. I'm happy to see, a liberal candidate win in South Korea. I know that it really doesn't move the needle too much in the grand scheme of things, right? But like, hey, I'm here to bring y'all some good news when I can. God damn it! So here we are, right? Eat up. I don't know. But yeah, that's it. I don't know. I guess some other just kind of closing out, just random little side news. Trump has talked about a 50% tariff, I believe, on steel and aluminum. So that might be a thing we're going to get into. A thing I haven't covered that's been taking place over the past week and a half at the very least, in terms of big talks, big actions, like House of Representatives passed the big beautiful bill. I don't know if you've been hearing about that. I've been wanting to cover it, but longtime listeners know I have a very tenuous relationship with Congress. They fucking screwed me before, and I don't want to get screwed again telling you that, hey, this shit is going to happen one way, and it goes completely sideways. It goes completely not the way that I, talk about. So I'm waiting for the Senate to, I guess, make changes or just bumper stick this bill. I'm assuming they are going to make some changes. and then how big those changes are, what the ramifications are. At some point, we will talk about that bill. At some point, we will talk about more tariffs because that's just the way this works, right? But yeah, I wanted to let you know that it is on top of mind. I just am waiting for it to kind of hit the fan, so to speak. But yeah, that's it. Enough of me ranting. Enough of me bemoaning. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. That's a free action. It really helps out a lot. Follow on TikTok. That also helps. Spotify for podcaster. Oh no, don't follow that. That's what I use. Don't worry about that. Go on Spotify and follow me there. Isaiah's Newsstand. Follow me on Apple Podcasts. Any of those. It really just helps out in terms of keeping up with the next episode. Also, leaving a like is helpful. Leaving a cool comment is helpful. Sharing is caring, but you don't have to do all that. I really do just appreciate you tuning in and listening. If this is the first time you're hearing me yap about the news, yeah, I'm not perfect. Okay, all right. But hey, I appreciate you for just hanging out and seeing what it's about. You know what I mean? And I'll be back tomorrow to talk about whatever I did, which, spoilers, it's probably going to be working and going to the gym and, just hanging out. But hey, you can tune in and see what happens, find out on the next episode. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.